Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan and I'm joined by Councillor Lyndon Jones MBE, who's also President of the Conservative Party in Wales, and of course by Annie Pelleschi. Thank you both for staying with me. I think Councillor Lyndon Jones, it's probably a time to talk about Conservative politics in Wales and not to forget the party conference. So if we were to begin with the conference.
Yeah, you know, I think everybody, when you look at the conference, people will remember about Theresa May coughing during the course of her speech. But at the end of the day, that was, you know, really unfortunate. Anybody can get a cold, and it was just unfortunate that it happened when she was making that key speech. She had a bit of a cold coming on earlier on in the week. During the course of that week, she did loads of interviews, actually getting out there, getting the message across to the media. So it was, you know, I know she will be disappointed by that, but Theresa May being Theresa May will head down, let's get on with the job.
She'll be remembered forever for the cough and the letters falling off. Shall we see for ourselves what probably you saw at the time?
So, while we will never, excuse me, we will never, while our opponents flirt with a foreign policy of neutrality and prepare for a run on the ground.
Boris, job done there. Give another P45.
Talking about Jeremy.
Good job. Done.
While we will never, excuse me, we will never hesitate. I hope you notice that, ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor giving something away free. Innovators and entrepreneurs. Thank you. Modern Britain, in all its diversity, compassion and strength that was shared around the globe.
You've got a feel for her, haven't you?
We do, and I think, you know, as I said, anybody can get a cold, but what a time to get a really bad cold and sore throat.
The Conservative Party minders, was nobody appointed to look after her and to make sure her throat wasn't stressed?
I think lessons have to be learned, but certainly, you know, as I say, what a time. But Theresa being Theresa, she will be head down, let's get on with the job, and that's what she's about. In fact, this week she's already been out, you know, made a statement on Brexit. She's been out visiting schools. She's actually out there, and I think you know, it was unfortunate. She was, you know, quite amusing when she came off and said about the lozenge from the Chancellor, something free. And you know, I've served with Theresa May on committees in the party, and I used to serve on the candidates committee with her. And I think it was she always used to sit next to me, and I'm quite convinced to keep me in order. But she has got a really good sense of humour, and really good with puns, I can tell you. She is, and really good company, and a little bit of that came out in that speech. But you know, it's this week, it's business as usual. She's getting on with the job of being Prime Minister. It was
surprising insight into her character that she was able to make those jokes under such stress. I mean, the one about the P45 as well. You know, she was quite funny. To give it to Jeremy Corbyn, you know, how she managed to drag that out. Annie, I don't know. We shouldn't talk about politics, perhaps as friends, but I'm guessing you're not Conservative.
I'm not going to answer that one.
Did you have any sympathy for the lady?
I do. I mean, she's a person in a position of power, and to lose your voice in that way, yeah, I feel for her. But if she's got such a good sense of humour, I hope she, like me, laughed when the F fell off and then the E from the sign behind her at the end, because that was brilliant. It couldn't have been staged.
That was the worst part of it. You know, a country that works for Britain, or what's it, a party that works for... And the bits of...
Absolutely no excuses. And, you know, obviously the people who set put the set together, and you know, that needs to be looked at. And certainly, you know, it's never happened before. And I can't imagine... I'm pretty sure it will. You know, I can't say it'll never happen again, but hopefully not with us. But that's certainly not...
The trouble is, people have taken it all. It's almost a kind of medieval response, isn't it? You know, it's like an omen. A serving Prime Minister, you know, who attracts bad luck, isn't a good Prime Minister. All that sort of thing.
It's a load of nonsense. And the bottom line is she's getting on with the job. She's out there, as I say, fighting our corner. And she was in the House of Commons this week. She recovered, as we could see. Made a really good speech in the House of Commons about Brexit. We're preparing. If there isn't a deal, we obviously want a deal, but if there isn't, we're preparing for that as well. And she is at the heart of these negotiations.
It's devastating for Wales and for Swansea in particular, though, isn't it? A hard Brexit.
Well, the bottom line is the people in Swansea voted against. They all wanted Brexit. So you know, we at the end of the day, we mustn't forget that. But obviously, you know, we want a deal. It's up to our European partners to have a look at what Theresa May put on the table in Florence and have a look at it. We're out there. And
Bishopston, your ward, is a pretty affluent area. How do you explain all this to people who are really... We see people struggling and suffering on a daily basis in Swansea.
Yeah, no, I think you know, what the government are doing with regard to Brexit is the fact that, you know, the country voted for it at the end of the day, and you must respect that vote, however you voted. And I think that is important, and that is what Theresa May is trying to do.
I think we pay the government, MPs to...
Isn't it important, though, that the government that called the referendum was not actually ready for the Brexit vote?
Didn't expect it.
Well, they should have. They were the ones that called the referendum, and they didn't have the plan in action for it. Yeah. That's all, and we shouldn't forget that either.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you call a referendum, you know, you must you know, be prepared for whatever that vote is.
For either.
But
like
clearly,
Boris was the next morning.
Yeah, but it was quite clear that the vote, you know, obviously was to leave. As I say, you've got to respect that.
Perhaps we should let you off the hook about the Welsh Conservative Party, your president in Wales. What ambitions, what are the challenges here in Wales?
We were disappointed to lose 3 good MPs at the last election, despite the fact we increased our vote quite considerably. We had the best vote in Wales since 1935.
What are you going to do with that mandate?
Well, what we need to do is to win more seats. We're looking for candidates, and women candidates as well. We're looking for candidates to fight...
With the MPs and the AMs that you've got, with the political presence you've got in Wales, what are you trying to achieve?
Well, we're in the Welsh Assembly. We're holding the Labour government to account. We are really the opposition there, because you see Plaid cozying up to Labour. They're saying this week, oh, we no longer have a compact with you. At the end of the day, they support their budgets. And one of the things that have just gone through are going to affect the people in Swansea quite badly, and that is the tourism tax. So that every time people stay in a bed and breakfast or hotel, they're going to be paying a tax.
But we don't know the level of tax.
Well, even so,
know what it's going to go for.
You can stay in the Cotswolds for far less than you can stay in Wales now, and that's a tax brought in by the
I think
Labour
even
government.
with the bedroom tax or the tourism tax, it's still more expensive to stay in the Cotswolds.
Well, it could be the Cotswolds, it could be Liverpool, it could be Blackpool. So that is
unfair.
So Welsh Conservatives, what we're doing in Swansea, for example, is the fact that you know, the Labour Party won the local elections. There's no question about that. And what we said from the very start, that we will work with them to deliver on the policies that we agree. And a lot of things we agree on. We're on committees.
Just quickly, such as?
Well, you know, developing the city centre. We want a good, vibrant Swansea.
And the lagoon.
Totally support Lagoon, as you know very well. We totally support the Lagoon.
Where is it?
I went out. Well, we need to get that right, get the price right, the strike price. Otherwise, the very same people who were for the lagoon will be well, unless you get that price right, the very same people who are supporting it now will be complaining.
The people who are putting up the money aren't going to be sitting around the table with this money. They've got to use it. They'll be putting it elsewhere.
Absolutely, and that's why we, as a group in Swansea, and the Welsh Conservative Party, and I was a signatory to a letter that went to Theresa May.
Next time you sit next to Theresa May, you remind her, eh?
I will.
Digging the ribs. We want that lagoon.
I did say that to her on Sunday night.
Thank you very much. We've had a good chat through all the politics of the day. After the break, we'll be joined by Dr. Lamah El-Sharkawi and pharmacist Reem El-Sharawki, looking at our health. Welcome back to Today on Bay TV. I'm Gaynor Morgan and I'm joined by Dr. Lamah El-Sharkawi and by pharmacist Reem El-Sharawki. And we're going to, this is the first of our regular features, I hope, looking at our health and how we can deal with it. And I think today we're going to talk about the flu.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, you two, Bishopston girls, I think, you look in the peak of health. But flu is a serious business, particularly this time of the year.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just to start off with a bit about what flu is about. So it's short for influenza. And it's a highly infectious respiratory viral illness which passes from person to person. When someone's infected, they can pass it to someone else by something simple like sneezing or coughing. The main symptoms of flu tend to be high temperature, you get generalised aches and pains, lethargy, like any sort of viral illness, really.
Reem, people confuse it with a cold. What's the difference?
So there are big differences between the flu and with a general cold. As you can hear today, Lamah has got a little bit of a cold, where it's things like you get a general, like, low-grade fever if you've got a cold, and you may have the sniffles and sore throat. But with the flu, as Lamah mentioned, you get an extreme high temperature. I think the symptoms are far more severe and probably don't resolve as quickly, do they?
Yeah.
As with a cold.
Yeah.
It can be really serious, though, the flu. So the flu, unfortunately, last year alone, we had in Wales over 600 patients admitted to hospital due to flu-related illnesses. So it can become in Wales.
That's a lot.
So it can become really serious, causing things like pneumonia, which obviously we'd want to prevent. Luckily enough, though, we've got the flu vaccine, we've got the flu jab, which is available at this time of year.
I think the seriousness is underlined. We've got a poster, I think, I'm not sure if the government's brought it out, but this is actually, this is who's brought this out? It's giving advice about...
Public Health Wales.
Public Health Wales,
Yeah.
giving advice about how to cope with flu, the poster?
Yeah, so how to cope with it, and also there's a bit at the start you can see just about who's eligible to have the flu vaccination on the NHS. So the flu vaccination normally is it's an injection into the muscle for adults, so usually into the arm, and basically the way it works is that it's an inactive virus, so it's injected into you, and the body is able to mount an immune response, so it produces what we call antibodies, which are proteins which fight infection in the body. So that if then you're exposed to the flu virus, your body recognises it and is able to form an attack and kill it.
Now, I'm 65, I'm pretty healthy, I'm farming stock and all the rest of it. I don't think I need it. And I think we've got a lady who's going to tell us she feels similarly.
And my old mum used to say to me, old age does not come alone. Well, she got that right. It comes with a cast of thousands. And I remember that famous Hollywood star, Bette Davis. She said, growing older is not for sissies. So fasten your safety belt, you're in for a bumpy ride. Well, catching the flu is a bumpy ride. Then a relative became very ill, and I realised what a nasty illness it could be. It can lead to pneumonia, and some people may even die as a result of complications of flu. So now I make sure I have it every year. I didn't think I needed it because I was fit and healthy, but I do. Doctors recommend that everyone over the age of 65 and everyone with a chronic condition should have the free flu jab every year. You need it every year because the virus changes, it's sneaky.
Well, I don't think you'll catch me playing hula hoops, but why does she need it? Why do I need it?
So the target, the sort of subsets of groups that we target are people who are at most risk of the flu or at most risk of the complications. So, I mean, didn't she look fantastic?
Oh,
she really did. But I hope I look like that when I'm that age. But yeah, so anyone over the age of 65, if she touched on that, if you've got a chronic condition and you're aged over 6 months, like diabetes or asthma, then you should have it. Pregnant women are also a very important subset that should be having it, because it not only protects you, but will protect the newborn baby in the first months of their life as well. If you're a carer, or if you've got a weakened immune system, for example, if you're having chemotherapy, or if you're aged 2 or 3, those are really the target groups that we want to get the flu vaccination done.
Reem, I'm a great believer in letting the body sort of fight for itself, and I'd be worried about side effects from the flu jab.
Yeah, good question. So we often get asked this in clinics and things. To be honest with you, the side effects are pretty minimal from the flu jab or the flu vaccine. You may get a mild fever after having it, or you may feel generally a few aches, but they should go after a few hours or even after maybe a day or 2. The one thing I would say is, if you've ever had any reaction to the flu vaccine or flu jab in the past, then it's important that you tell the healthcare professional before receiving the flu jab to make sure that everything's okay with you having it again. And likewise, as Lamah mentioned, we always advise patients, if you are right-handed, to have it in your left arm, for example, just because it can cause a bit of an ache after having the jab. But that normally goes within a couple of hours.
Well, Dr. Lamah, if somebody goes down with the flu, if they haven't had the jab, do they come straight to the surgery and spread it around?
No, it's best, I mean, obviously it depends on the severity, but it is best if it's a mild form of the flu, that most people will recover by themselves. Like I said, the body is very good at fighting infection and viruses. So just with rest alone, or with paracetamol and ibuprofen, then it might settle by itself within about a week to 10 days. But certainly, if they're worried about sort of more important, more severe complications, like we mentioned, like pneumonia, which is a lung infection, then certainly they should seek some help from their GP.
And Reem, to be more proactive, how do we go about finding out about the flu? I think I had a letter from my surgeon, and no idea where it is.
Okay, so all our surgeries at the moment in the Bay Network cluster and in all surgeries in Swansea are offering flu clinics at the moment. So it would just be a matter of calling your local surgery, and it's a very quick injection. You'll have it within a couple of minutes and you'll be out of the surgery. You can have it in some local pharmacies as well, but as I said, always ring the GP surgery and you'd be able to get it.
So perhaps best to be on the safe side. It sounds as if it's a very serious business, the flu.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Serious times.
Yeah. So we have got a little bit of a quiz called Myth or Fact. If I can just give these to you.
I'm bound to fail this. Are you testing me?
Kind of.
Testing you, yeah, absolutely.
So the first question is, the flu vaccine gives you flu. Is that a myth or a fact? Correct, Gaynor.
Very good. So the flu vaccine, like I said, is an inactive a form of the virus, so it doesn't actually give you the flu. It's usually coincidental that someone has picked up the flu just after they've had the flu vaccination.
Okay. If I get flu, I should take antibiotics.
Viral, isn't it? So is that a myth?
Very true.
Very good. So antibiotics only work for bacterial infections, and as we said, it's a viral illness.
That's a very hard one to come to terms with, because you do think the doctor can help you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm pregnant, so shouldn't have the flu jab because it will harm the baby. That, in fact, is actually a myth.
Well, it's not going to affect me anyway, but yeah. Why is it a myth?
So it won't harm the baby. Like I said, it'll be protective for the baby, so it'll protect the newborn.
Right. Okay.
And lastly, the word influenza comes from the Italian word for influence. Fact or myth?
I think that might be a fact.
Very good. It is actually from the Italian word.
We've got a very
for influence.
Latin-based language, haven't we? So,
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, that's very. I suppose it does influence everything about you, doesn't it?
Well, they used to think that it was influenced by the planet and the moon and the stars.
Oh,
so
right.
I'm not sure that's the case.
Because you wouldn't really know where it came from, would you? It would just sort of
No,
come upon
absolutely.
you, I suppose. So, well, it's better than the influence of alcohol, isn't it? Well, thank you both very
Thank you
much.
for having us.
I'm absolutely very much better educated now. Thank you so much.
Thank
Lydia.
you.
Thank you for coming in. And thanks really to all our guests today for joining us, and for all you at home and online for joining us. See you again tomorrow and we'll learn a little bit more about life.